Right, well, hello, ladies and gentlemen and guests. So it's 12:02, just rapidly coming up to 12:03. We've got a few people joined and a few people joining. So I thought I'd just kick off and start with the introductions and maybe a bit of housekeeping for everyone. So today's the first in our hopefully forever series of what we call Cyber Synopsis. So the third Thursday of every month at midday, please stick it in your calendar. We'll invite some guests from the world of cybersecurity. We'll talk in a trusted advisor kind of way. The rules are we won't be selling you anything. And the rules are hopefully you'll learn something as a result of the next half hour, maybe 40 minutes, get a chance to participate. So we'll be doing a kind of slightly formal presentation, then a Q&A at the end. All of our sessions are recorded, so we won't be recording any of the Q&A at the end, or certainly we'll edit it that your Q&A doesn't go into the recording, which we'll publish on our website later. So please feel free to say whatever you like once we get into the Q&A session. Clearly, Chatham House rules apply where appropriate. So we want you to get as much out of this session as we can. And this is for you to learn about cyber and hopefully find something useful you can do in your industry or your home environment when you get back to it from this call, and hopefully a bit of interest and maybe some entertainment as we go along the way. So I'm pleased to say that for the first in the series, we've got a guest speaker from NCSC. When I've spoken to some of you at my time of Node4, I've certainly been a big fan of the Cyberfirst program in my last two roles, and I was, I suppose, amazed, slightly pleased that some of you hadn't heard of the Cyberfirst program. So we thought a great way of kicking off this webinar series was to get a guest speaker from NCSC who run and curate the Cyberfirst program. And then hopefully you can see how either you could get involved. I'll talk later about maybe how Node4 is embracing the program, and we've joined the program as of this year, and we can get into Q&A. But with no more ado, I'll go on mute and pass over to David from NCSC, who's going to walk us through some slides for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and then we'll dive into Q&A. So David, thanks again, and the floor is yours, please.
Thanks, Andy. My name's David. I'm from the National Cybersecurity Centre, a part of GCHQ. So I've been involved with the Cyberfirst programme really since it started back in 2015, 2016. And just to give you a bit of sort of context, we were slightly concerned about the number of youngsters who were coming into the cybersecurity profession. I think it's probably fair to say that we are still concerned. There has been an improvement, but we still have a long way to go. The reasons for that really are quite simple in many ways. Cybersecurity is not taught as a mainstream subject in secondary school education. And for the most part, a lot of youngsters themselves, they have probably a quite sort of media-centric view of what cyber is, a rather sort of Hollywood view of some lone hooded male hacker sat in front of screens and with Coke cans and burger wrappers strewn across the desk. As we all know, cybersecurity is not like that at all. It's very much a team sport, and it requires people to work together very closely from a range of disciplines. The key thing that brings them all together is that they want to protect the systems, the connectivity, and effectively the society that we currently have today. So without further ado, let me just sort of rattle through a few slides, and then I'm very happy to take questions at the end. So we are very keen to have a very talented, skilled, but also a very diverse workforce. Cybersecurity is not just a technical problem. There are also human factors involved with cybersecurity, and as a result of that, we need a really diverse workforce. And I don't mean diversity in the way that it's often, again, portrayed in the media. So yes, we want people of colour, we want people of all ethnicities and gender, but we also want diversity of thought. And that's really important, not just for us as an organisation, but for UK PLC. Again, I'm delighted to say that some of the things that we put in place, we are starting to see some green shoots there. But as I said, we have a long way to go. We also recognise that we, GCHQ, NCSC, sat here in lovely Cheltenham. We cannot hope to do this on our own. We do need a combination of industry, of academia, so world-class universities within the UK, but also we need a regional touch to a lot of the work we're trying to do, and I'll cover some of those developments a little later on in the presentation. So we have three key principles. We need to inspire young people. So we need to give them a vision of what working in cybersecurity is about, so they are inspired to do some further learning and also be inspired to take up a career in cybersecurity itself. And that further learning is really around their development. So we really want to provide the right skills for these youngsters. And then we actually want to try and build communities right across the UK, based in regions or home nations that support young people, their development in and outside of school, and then a smooth transition actually into the workplace itself. So I'm just conscious that, here we go. This is on the build. What we have here is just a quick snapshot of some of the activities that we actually deliver under the Cyberfirst programme. I talked about cybersecurity not being a mainstream education subject, and it isn't. There are elements of it that are creeping into the curriculum, particularly actually in the home nations within Wales, Scotland, and to a lesser extent in Northern Ireland. In England, it is still very much based around computing and computer science, which has elements of cybersecurity in it, but it isn't defined in its own right. And if you think just within England alone, there are circa 600,000 students that take A-levels each and every year. Back in 2017, we only had 7,650 something students that took an A-level in computer science, which is shockingly low number of A-level students in 2017. But of that, only 670 were actually female. So you can see there's a real problem with gender in cybersecurity as well, which is really why we still continue to hover around this sort of 16% of technical cybersecurity roles being fulfilled by females. And for us within GCHQ, that's a bit embarrassing, because if you look back to our predecessors at Bletchley Park, where over 70% of the workforce were female. And there are some real strong correlations between what they did and the skill set they had at Bletchley Park and to some of the skills required in cybersecurity in today's profession. So things like cryptography, things like data analytics, things like well, they didn't do digital forensics, they did sort of analytical forensics, so which they had to sort out in a very sort of mandrolic way, but they did it very effectively and very efficiently for their time. So as I said, some of those, the type of minds that were employed at Bletchley Park and some of the skill sets there are directly applicable to the skill sets that the type of minds that we require today. And so just flicking on here to a little bit more detail about some of the courses that we run in secondary school education. So Trailblazers and Adventurers, these are one-day courses for students. They're all free. We then have a Cyberfirst Girls competition. Any of you who perhaps have contacts with schools or have children or girls who are Year 8 or S2 in Scotland or Year 9 in Northern Ireland, you are eligible to apply for the competition, and actually registration for that for this year is actually open now, so please give your schools a push. And then we have our 5-day residential courses, so Cyberfirst Defenders, Futures and Advanced, which we tend to hold at universities up and down the country. So since 2016, we have offered over 17,500 places to students to attend these courses. They are all free, and they're all funded by the National Cybersecurity Centre. And at each and every one of these courses, we encourage industry and academics to come along and try and bring some of the subject matter to life and talk about their experiences, how they got involved. And any of you listening today, you are very welcome to play a part in that. But I talked about some of the green shoots that we were starting to see, both in terms of ethnicity and also in terms of gender. So if I take you back to summer of 2021, where we had a hybrid basically of our summer courses, which were the 5-day courses, so hybrid of residential face-to-face, but also of virtual courses where we ran them in virtual classrooms. So you'll see some really encouraging statistics there. So 1,736 students took part, 43% female, and 47.2% were from ethnic minority participants, which, as I said, is really, really encouraging. In terms of the girls' competition I mentioned, so 2022, so we had 7,000 girls. Actually, when we were running the competition, we were actually in lockdown or just about to go into lockdown over that sort of Christmas period, which was quite disappointing, really. But you'll see there, since 2017, 56,000 participants have taken part. What's really, really encouraging now is we're starting to see some of those girls that took part in the earlier stages of earlier years of the competition actually joining the profession. And I was only approached a couple of months ago by when I was walking around GCHQ, and this young lady approached me and said, "You don't remember me, but," and she was in the final back in 2017 and joined us as one of our degree apprentices. So it's really encouraging and heartening to see that sort of progress and the impact we're starting to make. All of this work is really designed to try and build up to a point where we can support young undergraduates through university. So you'll see there we have the Cyberfirst bursary. It's a university bursary where we those lucky applicants and successful applicants, we give them £4,000 a year tax-free. And then each summer, we take them for 8 weeks and offer them a work placement. Now, clearly, we within the NCSC or GCHQ cannot accommodate hundreds and hundreds of students for 8 weeks over the summer. So that's where we rely upon a whole host of industry supporters and contacts to provide those summer placements. The standard that we require is we're not after sort of Einsteins. We just want 3 A levels at 120 UCAS points, so 3 Bs. The most important thing is that they have an interest and a God-given talent, an aptitude, basically, in computational thinking. That's really what we're looking for, and we find that out in the assessment. We don't care what their A-level subjects have been in, as long as they've got 120 UCAS points or equivalent, and we don't care what degree they are studying at university. The reality is about 85% of the students end up studying something to do with computers or cybersecurity. So But the other 15%, that's where we really get a very rich and diverse group of students who come from a legal background, an accountancy background, they're studying history, geography, human movement. So a real mix, and that really helps us, to be honest, because again, it comes with that diversity of thought. So when we come to tackle problems, there are different thought processes which help us overcome some of those problems. So we support those students every single year up to a maximum of 4 years, which means those students studying for degrees in Scotland are fully covered as well, or those students who want to do an integrated master's. All the students are given an SC clearance, and we currently have 1,085 students who have either been through the bursary scheme and are now working in industry, or are actually currently on the scheme. We're recruiting another 100 students this year, and they'll be added to the pot. All of those industry folk that I mentioned who help provide these placements over the summer also get an opportunity to recruit these students once they have graduated. So just to sort of build on that a bit more. So we've started to sort of build this sort of pipeline within the education system. We have an undergraduate sort of scheme which is for the benefit of UK PLC. So it's about 95% of those students actually will go on and work in industry. They won't come and work for the intelligence agencies, they go on to work in industry. But as I mentioned right at the very beginning, we can't deliver Cyberfirst as effectively as we would like unless we have industry and academia on board. And in fact, we also need to actually involve or give a regional flavour to some of the delivery of these activities. So we have a number of excellent schools in this country, across the UK, that actively promote computing, both as part of the curriculum but also outside. And they have an open door policy to industry and academia coming in and supporting the development of their students. The sort of missing link really was how these schools actually reach out and engage with the right sort of industry and universities to help make that happen. So what we have done is set a standard for schools in certain parts of the UK. So it's not in every part of the UK at the moment, and that's purely down to resources. But we have Cyberfirst Schools and Colleges programme currently operating in Northern Ireland, in Wales, in the northeast of England, soon to be up and running in the northwest, and also in the southwest of England. So we have 56 Cyberfirst schools that are have either been awarded a bronze accreditation, silver or gold accreditation. And ideally, the whole point is to try and get, I wouldn't say as many schools as possible, because we need to maintain the quality, and we also need to make sure that once these schools have acquired a Cyberfirst recognition, that the ecosystem that is built up around these schools involving industry and academia is able to look after and make sure the students within those schools are helped to develop. So it's very much a sort of a quality mark, and we want these schools to be real sort of beacons and a focal point for cybersecurity education and secondary school education within their regions. So that's really important to us. And Our industry partners are very important to us, our own industry members of Cyberfirst, and that's just a snapshot. So we've got 200, I think it's 216 members of Cyberfirst. You will see some well-known names there, and to be honest, they keep on flooding in. And we're absolutely delighted to welcome as many companies as possible. It gives you, as industry members, an opportunity to engage with these students, do some corporate social responsibility outreach work within these schools, take some of these really bright undergraduates and give them 8 weeks worth of good cybersecurity development over the summer. I would add that we pay them, the students, £2,000 for those 8 weeks, and we also contribute to their living accommodation as well. So there's no cost to you to host these students. And it also gives you an opportunity to recruit some of these students upon graduation. I think, if my memory serves me correctly, about 90% of the students that have graduated have gone into full-time cybersecurity roles, and 100% are in full-time roles. But it's that 10% that have decided, actually, once they've graduated, that perhaps cyber isn't for them. But for 90% of them, it is. So that's enough from me. I'm happy to take any questions, and I'll come off sharing.